The first clue that I was dead was a bouquet of lilies on my doorstep. I still remember the smell. Pale white with soft, downturned petals, the kind they send to funerals, tied together with satin ribbon and tucked into a florist's envelope that read, "So sorry for your loss." No name, no return address, just sitting there on the front doormat like death had tried to be polite. Thing is, I wasn't dead. I was very much alive, drinking my morning coffee and watering my begonias when I found them. At first, I thought there'd been some mistake. A neighbor maybe. Wrong address, wrong name. But when I opened my mailbox and saw a letter from the Social Security Administration, condolences regarding the passing of Ruth Eleanor Dillard, my heart dropped. That's my name. I'm Ruth Dillard, 67, retired high school secretary, alive and breathing in Birmingham, Alabama, on a quiet October morning with lilies whispering at my feet like some uninvited prophecy. It didn't take long before I realized this wasn't a clerical error. It was a setup by my own daughter. But if you think I just cried and let it happen, you don't know me at all. I may be old, but I don't go quiet. Nobody gets to bury me alive. Thank you for being here. It means so much to me. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to see how far this story travels. Now sit back and let me take you back to the beginning, back to the soft edges of my life before the lilies came. Some folks tell you retirement feels like stepping off a moving train, but for me, it was more like settling into a porch swing, slow and warm, with the creak of wood beneath you and time to think. I worked 32 years as a secretary at Ramsey High School, till my knees started aching and the early mornings weren't worth it anymore. I left on good terms, got a pension, had some money saved, about $320,000 in my retirement account, plus around $45,000 in savings I kept liquid. I wasn't rich, but I was stable. More importantly, I was content. My little one-story house was paid off. I had a garden in the back and 2 parakeets named Dot and Marvin who sang to each other like old lovers. Life was quiet, easy. And then there was Candace, my only daughter. I named her after my mother. Seemed like the right thing to do. But Mama had iron in her bones. My Candace, well, let's just say she learned how to cry before she learned how to talk. She's 38 now. Grew up sweet, fragile-voiced, used to snuggle beside me every Sunday with her stuffed rabbit, whispering secrets like I was her whole world. We had birthday tea parties, backyard picnics, painted our nails on the floor like we were rich women in a salon. But somewhere after high school, that sweetness shifted. She dropped out of college after a year and moved in with a man twice her age who treated her like a stray cat, always chasing some dream that spilled money into someone else's pocket. Makeup lines, crypto, a self-healing crystal pyramid store she tried to open in Atlanta. By the time she was 30, she was nearly $60,000 in debt, bouncing between boyfriends and apartments, showing up at my door when she ran out of options. And Lord help me, I always let her in. I wasn't blind. I knew she used me sometimes. 100 here, 1,000 there. Just to get caught up, Mama. Promises that fell like dry leaves. But I'd look at her and still see that little girl with chipped nail polish and messy braids. That's how they get you, you know. They don't steal from the strong part of you. They steal from the part that loves. Anyway, this time last fall, things had seemed better. Candace had gotten engaged. Man named Jared Morrison. Older, wore suits, had a slow drawl that made you think he knew more than he let on. He ran some kind of business consulting company, said they were helping entrepreneurs get tax breaks and offshore assets. He gave me the creeps. Smooth voice, empty eyes, like he was always waiting for the room to forget he was there. But Candace said he made her feel stable, said he helped her rebuild her credit and wanted to put family first. So I smiled. We had them over for dinner. I made lemon chicken and cornbread, sat across from him while he asked about my bank's interest rates and what kind of password manager I used. I thought he was just being chatty. Now I know better. Back to the lilies. After I found the bouquet, I started noticing other strange things. That same day, I called my bank, First Southern Credit Union, to ask about a recent deposit I hadn't seen reflected. The woman on the line, polite as a church lady, paused and said, "Ma'am, we have your account marked as closed due to account holder's passing." I swear, the air in the room changed. I was standing in my slippers, mail in hand, hearing someone tell me, softly, that the system thought I no longer existed. I asked, how? When? Why? She told me someone had submitted a death certificate. Said she couldn't share anything else without verification documents. I hung up. My hands were shaking too hard to hold the phone. I walked into the kitchen, looked at Dot and Marvin in their cage, and whispered, "Am I still here?" That night, I checked my bank app. Locked. I checked my online Social Security account. Locked. I called the number on the back of my Medicare card. Busy. Then rooted. Then told I was deceased as of September 14th. That was 22 days ago. And I remembered something. On September 13th, Candace had called me, crying, said Jared's company was being audited, that they might lose everything. She asked for my login info to help transfer some things for safekeeping. I told her no. I remember her going quiet on the line. Then she sniffled and said, "It's okay, Mama. I understand. You don't trust me." I didn't mean it like that. I was just tired, and the macaroni was burning on the stove. But now, hearing customer service reps talk to me like a ghost, hearing the line go quiet in that suspicious way when someone realizes you're not dead enough for their script, I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the edge of the bed. I looked through every piece of mail, checked my safe box, my birth certificate, my will. All present, all real, except me. In the digital world, I was gone, and someone else had picked up the pieces like bone fragments and cash. And I knew. It was her, my own child. The same hands that used to braid my hair when I was sick, now shoveling dirt over me, digital dirt, all so she could steal the money I swore was going to be for my last years. Grief does strange things when the person you're mourning isn't dead, but you are. When the storm finally hit, it didn't come loud. No thunder, no screaming, just a quiet click on a computer screen, followed by the ache of truth sinking into my chest like a stone in still water. I drove myself to the downtown Social Security office the next morning. Birmingham was cool that day, leaves tumbling across the sidewalk like little messengers. I wore my old cardigan with the blue stitching on the cuffs. It still smelled faintly of cinnamon from last winter. I thought maybe if I looked as alive as I felt, they'd believe me. The young man behind the counter, Jordan, his tag read, was kind enough, but when he pulled up my profile and saw the status marked deceased, his mouth drew into a tight, flat line. I'm very sorry, Miss Dillard." His voice lowered. "According to our records, you passed 3 weeks ago. The death certificate has already been processed through the State Vital Records Department." I shook my head. "Son, you're looking at me." My voice cracked against the fluorescent lights. "I'm not a ghost." He blinked, looked unsure what to say, called a supervisor. They moved me to a back room, asked for every form of ID I had, government ID, birth certificate, utility bills. I gave them everything out of my purse, my old school badge, my Medicare card, even a prescription bottle with my name on it. His supervisor, a woman named Miss Rodriguez, sat across from me and folded her hands. "Mrs. Dillard, someone submitted a valid death certificate with matching personal data, date of birth, Social Security number, driver's license. It was filed through the Alabama Department of Public Health. It passed authentication and automatic approval. But it's not valid. I didn't die." She nodded, serious now. "We're launching an investigation. But these documents don't appear forged, which means we're looking at either a case of fraud or someone inside the system helping." She paused. "You mentioned you gave someone personal access to your information?" There it was. I could barely say the words. "My daughter, Candace." I whispered it like confession. Rodriguez didn't flinch. I think she saw that sort of heartbreak all the time. When I left the office, they handed me a paper, Temporary Certification of Life. It felt absurd, having to prove something that should be self-evident. But fraud against the deceased was a fast-growing business, apparently, and elderly people were easy pickings, especially by the people who knew us best. I went straight to my bank, still clutching that certificate like a passport back from the dead. Same woman picked up the phone behind the branch counter. Charla, sweet girl with thick glasses. This time, she looked up at me like she was looking at history walking. "Miss Ruth," she whispered. "They said you were—" "I know what they said." She took me to the manager. It took 30 minutes before the full picture came into focus. Candace hadn't just accessed my account. She'd closed out 4 accounts entirely, transferred over $378,000 into 2 new accounts opened under her and Jared's business name. Then she filed a routing instruction to send half of that into separate investment funds. The manager printed the paperwork. It was all there. The digital signature looked identical to mine. The email submitted was a private address I didn't recognize. But then I saw it. Under emergency contact, Candace Dillard Morrison. I felt it deep in my chest. The kind of hurt that doesn't yell, it settles into your bones. This wasn't just theft. This was a burial, and I had let her in. Later that night, I sat on my back porch with a blanket over my legs and a folder of every printed slip the bank could legally give me. Dates, transfers, names. Candace, Jared, Morrison Holdings, LLC. They engineered everything, faked a death report, submitted it under emergency authorization with my identifying details they obviously copied while they were in my house, even had my driver's license number. But what really broke me, truly, was when I found her post, 2 weeks old, on her Facebook page. A grainy black and white photo of me sitting in church last year, hunched in prayer, captioned, "We lost my beautiful mama unexpectedly last month. I'll never stop missing you. Thank you for always believing in me. Rest now." The comments, flooded with sympathy. "So sorry for your loss. She's in a better place now. Your mom raised such a strong woman." Strong? Number. She raised a thief in pearls. But the worst of it? Just beneath the funeral post, she'd posted a photo at the beach, smiling, holding hands with Jared, captioned, "Fresh start, new blessings." The comment said things like, "Y'all deserve everything good," and I sat there staring at her face, the same face I once used to kiss goodnight, and felt something break apart in me. Not anger, not crying, just cold clarity. She had announced me dead. She had stolen my life savings, and she was basking in the love people gave her for surviving it. But if she thought she'd buried her past, she forgot one thing. The dead can still rise. I didn't call her. I didn't confront her. I didn't scream or drive to her house or post anything online. That's what she would expect. Instead, I called a lawyer. Someone I used to work with at the school. Her niece had gone to law school and started a probate firm near Montgomery. Cassidy Brightwell, young, sharp, and calm like a surgeon. I sat across from her a few days later and laid it all out. The flowers, the bank, the death certificate, the Facebook post. She didn't blink once. We can sue for financial fraud, civil theft, elder abuse, possibly conspiracy to commit identity fraud depending on how deep Jared and his company go. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "But if you really want to make this stick, you don't press charges yet." I looked at her confused. "You gather. Evidence? No. Witnesses." That's when it began, the resurrection. I ordered full notarized copies of every bank and Social Security document. I contacted the Department of Vital Records and got the original death certificate submission ID, traced back to a digital P.O. box under Jared's LLC. Best part? The form was uploaded from an IP address registered to their home in Mountain Brook. I took screenshots, time-stamped, labeled. Then I quietly filed a motion for full account restoration with the bank's legal department. Told them I'd been declared prematurely deceased under fraudulent intentions and had been verified alive by 3 parties. Cassidy sent a subpoena to Morrison Holdings. Didn't accuse, not yet. Just asked for clarification on financial transfers involving a deceased person's assets. 2 days later, Candace called me. First time in weeks. I didn't answer, but I let that voicemail sit. Her voice, frantic, sugary. Mama, hey, oh my God. I heard something weird from the bank about your account, and, I'm not sure what's going on, but maybe we can talk? Jared says we should get things sorted. I saved it. The panic had begun. Good, because I was just getting started. When a daughter kills her mother, on paper, what she doesn't plan for is the afterlife. And I didn't return from the dead to argue with ghosts. I returned to reclaim every inch of what was mine. The weeks that followed held a strange rhythm. Cassidy and I worked quietly but methodically. She called it legal gardening. You plant, water, and wait. And slowly, things began to bloom. We found patterns. Bank transfers were subdivided after the initial sweep. $120,000 here, $50,000 there. Jared had funneled over $80,000 into a cryptocurrency wallet, then long-winded consulting expenses. But I had every receipt, every timestamp. More than that, Cassidy knew how to speak their language. She initiated a quiet inquiry through the IRS fraud division, just enough to raise questions without firing flares. And me? I stayed silent. Didn't respond to Candace's next voicemail, or the one after that. The third message, left at 2:12 a.m., was the one that finally told me I'd cut deep enough. Sad. Mama, please. I don't know why you're attacking us. We were trying to help you, and then things got complicated. Jared has a lawyer now, and they're saying this could ruin us. Is that what you want? For your daughter to go to prison? I replayed it twice. Then I forwarded the file straight to Cassidy. The first real confrontation didn't come from words. It came dressed in a suit. Cassidy filed the civil lawsuit in late January. Elder financial exploitation, forgery, identity theft, emotional and financial abuse. You wouldn't believe how loud silence can be when the papers hit someone like her. Candace didn't call. Her lawyer did. Straight to Cassidy. Said they were open to an amicable settlement, maybe a return of some funds in exchange for a quiet dismissal. Cassidy told them something I'll never forget. Determined. I believe my client is worth more dignity than quiet. Now, I know some people seek revenge like fire. Me? I like light. I wanted the truth to come out where everyone saw it. So I did one thing Candace never expected. I sent out invitations. My niece Evie was getting married in March. Small service down in Montgomery. Family only. That week, with Cassidy's blessing, I slipped a little whisper out to the extended family through Evie. Let's invite Candace. It had been years since many of them had seen her. She'd burned those bridges long ago, chasing men, money, and messes. But weddings soften people, and in the South, family will forgive anything. Open wounds with a smile. So Evie invited her, said directly, sweetly, we'd love to have y'all there. Candace RSVP'd through text. Excited. Of course! So excited. We only invite special people. I sat on my porch and laughed. Special, she said. Wedding day arrived. I wore a soft slate blue dress, had my hair curled at the salon and pinned in silver. People hugged me like they hadn't seen a ghost, and bless them, they didn't even realize how true that felt. Candace walked in late, Jared trailing behind her, smug and suntanned in a too-tight blazer. They looked untouched by grief, as if they'd never been visited by consequence. But what they didn't know was that every cousin there, every uncle, aunt, neighbor, they all knew. Cassidy had timed it perfectly. The civil case was public. The court docs had names, statements, amounts. We didn't need drama. We had truth. And people talked. Later that afternoon, during the reception, Jared tried to shake hands with my brother Frank. Frank looked him in the eye and said, disgusted, "You walk around stealing from your elders." Hardly seems like God's gonna bless that. Jared's mouth twitched. Candace approached me near the punch table. Her voice was softly soft. "Mama, can we talk?" I didn't move, didn't blink, just poured myself a glass and said, coldly, "I already heard everything you had to say when you pronounced me dead." She paused. "Mama, I'm sorry. Jared said it was temporary. I thought maybe if we moved the money and put it somewhere safe. Angry. You paid for a beach vacation and new veneers with my death. She swallowed. I took a long sip, firmly. You didn't steal from a stranger. You stole from the woman who gave you a home, who chose to keep forgiving you, even when you showed me who you were. Candace's voice broke, tears clinging to the edge of desperation. But I'm your daughter, Mama. You're supposed to love me. Sadly, I did. I looked her square in the eyes, solemnly. I loved you with everything I had. That was the problem. She stood frozen, shaking. Then Jared came up behind her, whispering something sharp and awful in her ear. They left the reception 10 minutes later. No goodbye. Not a single guest stopped them on the way out. The lawsuit made the local papers. A small piece in the Birmingham Times. Woman allegedly fakes mother's death to gain access to $300,000 plus inheritance funds. They didn't use her full name, but people knew. The story spread quietly through church groups and retirees. Moms whispering over book club coffee. Old co-workers texting, "Did you see this?" But I didn't celebrate. People think the opposite of love is hate. It's not. It's absence. I emptied my heart of her, let the weight of her fall to the bottom and settle like dust. 4 months later, I won the civil case in full. The judge ordered Candace and Jared to pay $394,700 in compensatory damages, plus $50,000 in punitive. Cassidy helped file liens on both of their assets. The company account was frozen. Jared lost several clients once word spread. And the real godsend? Candace's digital forgery, signing my name, matched previous loan forms I never authorized. That opened a criminal charge for fraudulent document filing and elder coercion. I didn't have to testify. Her silence spoke volumes. Last I heard, she took a plea deal and avoided jail, but was placed on 120 days of supervised probation with full restitution monitoring. Jared filed personal bankruptcy. I didn't want them ruined. I wanted them accountable. And I wanted peace. That's exactly what I got. Once the hearings ended and the papers were signed, I walked out of the courthouse on a cloudy Thursday morning, quiet in my shoes, lighter in my chest. I didn't cry. Lord knows I had, back when I thought I was dying out of someone's memory. But that day, when the judge ruled in my favor and Cassidy gently grabbed my arm as we stood up, all I really felt was stillness, like standing on the other shore after a boat wreck, bruised, but back on land. People called. Neighbors dropped off muffins. My church sent me a care package with hand-knit socks and a card that said, "God keeps receipts." I smiled at that one longer than I should have. And finally, I gave myself permission. Not to trust her again. Not to get the old Candace back. But to live the years she almost took from me. The resolution, healing. Every Tuesday now I go walking with the senior club in Crestwood Park. It's good for the knees, better for the mind. There's one woman, Deborah Simmons, whose daughter married a man in prison and took out 6 credit cards in her name. Another widow whose son sold the title to her house while she was in the rehab center. And you'd be shocked how common it is. This isn't just my story. It's what happens in silence when trust outlives logic. Blood means nothing when there's a checkbook involved, Deborah once told me, peeling an orange with those trembling, veiny hands. You raise somebody with love, and they gamble it. But I still believe in love. I don't regret raising Candace the way I did. I just regret thinking she'd never use what she knew about me, what I trusted her with, to do harm. Because that's the part no one warns you about. A stranger stealing your things? That's crime. But a child stealing you, your identity, your name, that's something else entirely. That's grief with no funeral. The house feels different now. I updated my will, put protections in place, named neutral third parties as estate executors, even appointed Cassidy as my financial power of attorney if anything happens. And I downsized a bit, sold the guest bedroom set Candace used to sleep in, repainted the hallway. I made a new hummingbird garden along the fence, muted yellow buds, little life forms that gather and flutter. No planning, no lies, just beauty, just now. Sometimes people ask if I still talk to her. Number, she emailed me on Mother's Day. Subject line, for what it's worth. Inside was one sentence: I'm sorry I hurt you. I hope you're okay. I didn't reply, not to hurt her, but because, after all the dust settled, I realized something simple and painful. I was never the one she was writing to. She was speaking to the woman she hoped I still was, and I'm not her anymore. I tell my story now, not to shame her, not to scare anyone, but to remind folks, especially older folks, you have the right to survive, to protect what's yours, to ask questions even if they make your children frown, to set boundaries even if it means sitting alone in the quiet. We lose so much when we age, but we do not lose our voice. You just have to clear the cobwebs from it. Stroke your own dignity like a cat on the porch, then stare down the people who called you mama and ask, would you bury me just to rob me? It's surprising how many would, and how few think you'll rise again. I still keep the lilies dried in my Bible, pressed between the pages of Ecclesiastes. To everything there is a season, a time to be born and a time to die. Someone tried to choose my season for me. They expected silence, expected me to fade like old receipts in the drawer. But I came back, not with noise, with proof. Some wars aren't won with fire. They're won in filing cabinets and quiet lawyers, and the look you give a thief at a family wedding, knowing the whole room sees them now, plain. And you? You're alive. So tell me this. If your own child filed your death before your body had even cooled, how do you forgive them? Do you? Maybe forgiveness isn't a door you open for them. Maybe it's a window you crack open for yourself, just enough to let in a little light, not the whole storm. I don't hate Candace, but I don't miss her either. Sometimes love has an expiration date, and sometimes being the mother means doing the loving, even while walking away. I used to tell her she was the best thing that ever happened to me. That's still true, because what she did showed me who I'd become. Strong, watchful, kind, but not soft-headed. A woman unburied. A mother resurrected.
To anyone listening who's ever been used by someone you raised, look after yourself. Not because love is wrong, but because boundaries are a form of love too. Guard what you've built. Ask questions. Say no, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. And should someone ever mistake your kindness for weakness, sit still. Gather. Then rise. Let the truth speak louder than revenge ever could. Because some victories don't come with fireworks. They come in silence, sealed with justice. Thank you for walking with me through this story today. If it stirred something inside you, if you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved and trusted, know that you're not alone, and you're not weak. If this story gave you chills or made you tear up, please hit that like button. Share your thoughts in the comments and tell me, have you ever been betrayed by family? Would you have done what I did, or something different? And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more deeply human stories like this one, from heartbreak to healing. This is Ruth Dillard's story, but it could happen to any of us. So protect your peace. And remember, some wars are won in silence.